Hi everyone! Welcome again to our Allergy Awareness Live event. This is the third in the Thriving with Allergy series, and today we will be having one phenomenal human, one of the kindest, bravest people I've ever met on social media. She is the Allergy Chef. When she comes on, I will be telling you more about her. Today's event is sponsored by our friends Aga's Wholesome, and they will be giving away some of their allergy-friendly products. Their baobab is a staple in our family. We've been buying and using their baobab for over 2 years now. Really delicious beverage. If you love your warm drinks, allergy cannot stop you. So if you stay to the end, you might be winning some packs of baobab and maybe some other things. If you've been coming on live, you know that we love to listen to some music before we start. And our guest today loves classical music. So I went German. I selected Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik. By the way, I speak a little German, so it means a little night song, a little night music. So listen, and please don't go away because we begin at exactly 9, or as soon as she comes live. So here we go. Welcome, Banke. Welcome, Olatunde Joshua. Welcome, Happiness. Okay. Welcome, the Cuddle Blog. Can you hear the music? Can you hear? Can you hear the music?
Hello.
Hi, Chef. So good to have you.
Good. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Did you hear my jam for you?
I heard the music. It was great. I love it. I've been listening. It's really good.
Okay. Okay, I was telling them that you are one of the bravest, kindest people that I've met on social media. I've spent the last couple of days reading about you, reading about free and friendly foods, reading about Rays, watching your Insta live saves, watching your stories. You are phenomenal. And
Well, thank
then
you.
I don't know. You are also a terrific parent. How did you get your children to become a part of your business? It's like they're running it, and and you are just having fun.
No, no, no. That's called you don't get dinner if you didn't help today.
I
Right?
see. Good.
No, it's I mean, we homeschool our kids, so it's a lot easier to have them as part of the business. And given their specific dietary needs, it just made sense for our family. And when you raise your kids, they all kind of end up having the same goals. And the funny thing is, though, is we tell them regularly, you don't have to do this, right? Like, if you want to go out
Wow.
and join this or do that, like, do it. We're going to support you. Like, do not like pigeonhole yourself into something that you don't really want, because you don't want your kids to be unhappy and miserable because they had to help with the family
Yeah.
business or something. So we're very mindful of that. But I mean, it's a challenge some days because it's all the arguing and the bickering, and then it's you ask them to do something and they don't. I needed that done, but that's life.
Wow. Well done. Well done. It
Thank you.
speaks to your parenting style. It speaks to how much you love them and want the best for them. And I love that you don't force them to do it. You support their dream, but then you give them that choice to be a part of the amazing work
Yeah.
that you are doing. Well done. So let's start. I'm sure that if you collect a penny for every time you get this question,
Oh man.
so tell us about the mask. I'm sure you
Right.
were
I was gonna
expecting
say, let
this.
me read your mind. In fact, I'll show it to people who may not be aware of what you're referring to. So I actually have to wear a full face respirator to leave the house. And it's essentially a medical device that keeps me alive because I have what's called an airborne allergy, meaning if I breathe in what I am allergic to, not all things, but certain items, if I breathe them in, it can cause severe anaphylaxis. It'll cause my heart rate to drop and I'm out. It's not exciting. It's definitely not fun. Um, some people say I make it look really good, so I'll take it as a compliment. It's definitely not a fashion statement or even like I don't know, just a statement in general, because sometimes people think like you're protesting something, and it's like, no, no, just trying to breathe and stay alive today. That's it. And so the mask has, in a sense, for me, I kind of see it as a symbol of maybe possibly like hope for the future. There are a lot of people that reach out and tell us things like, I need to wear a mask, but I'm too embarrassed to wear it. And so just seeing you wear yours, gives me the confidence to wear mine. The thing is I take a lot of harassment and flack from people, and so it's just my way, essentially, of just blazing a trail, I guess. And every time I face strife, especially like from businesses, like there was a big incident a couple of years ago at a bank, like a federal national big deal bank, and I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And then there was like another incident at a hotel, and I'm like, no, 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 no. And every time, I stay polite, but I stay really firm and I don't let my line in the sand get moved. It's like, you will respect me. I have a disability. And if you wouldn't treat a person in a wheelchair like this, why are you mistreating me? And I always draw that conclusion to people. That, and I love to say, would your mother be happy that you're making fun of a disabled person? That usually makes them be quiet really fast. It's people just, they can get really rude and nasty when they see something that they don't know, or that bothers them. And so I'm just here to say, you know what? I'm just trying to breathe. That's it.
Thank you so
But you're
much
right.
for
If I
sharing
had
that.
if I had a penny for every time, I'd have like a lot of really great Lego sets. Like a lot of them. So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But the irony now is that everyone has to
I
wear a
know.
mask, some sort of mask now.
I know. Yes. And it's
So
interesting because sometimes I feel out of place. Like, wait, I was the only one wearing one. This is really weird. It's really strange sometimes now seeing everyone in them. It's also interesting because, I know the effective rate of each type of mask. And so a lot of the ones that people are using, it's like, it's pretty, but it's not really going to do much for you. It's more of like a, I don't know. a safety blanket, like a security blanket type of thing.
Yeah.
To get true protection, like you have to wear a full face respirator, and the different filters indicate the level of filtering as well. So the filters that I use are like the highest level of filtering that you can get. The only two things that penetrate that filter are onions and coffee. That's it. Nothing else gets in. It's very interesting. But yeah, lots of Lego sets if I had a penny.
So is there a mic connected to it? Because I watched a couple of YouTube videos where you were speaking quite audible with the mask on.
So there's a couple of things about it. Number one, this is called the FF04 model, and this piece right here specifically, it's actually detachable. Well, it actually does detach. This piece comes off. It's a built-in natural amplifier on this particular model. And then Carlton hooks up a microphone sometimes, and there'll be, like, you can't see it, but he puts a wireless receiver inside of the mask, and then I wear a body pack that transmits, and then you can hear things a little bit better. But it takes a lot of, like, wires and gizmos all over the kitchen, and it's a bit much. But yeah, so that's life.
Must be really uncomfortable, which is
Absolutely.
why I'm amazed at the amount of joy that is around you. You know, when I watch your videos, when I listen to those interviews, you have so much joy. How are you able to stay positive? How are you able to keep caring about other people? Because I see now that your life is just about helping, the minority, making sure that kids don't feel left out, showing them that they can eat their cake and have it.
Yeah.
How are you able to exude such joy and live such meaningful life despite all this?
All right, I'll tell you the real secret. You ready? It brings me joy to prove people wrong. That's it.
Wow.
I love proving to the world, like, you don't need to be afraid of us. We're not picky. We're not this. We're not that. And I need to show people, like, I'm so sick and tired of hearing, I can't have XYZ. It's like, no, you can have it. Really, you can. It just won't come easy. And I think that that's the real thing that what people are really expressing is food is no longer convenient. And that is true. Your food will never be convenient when you're diagnosed, especially with like multiple severe food allergies, right? And so for people who are dealing with these conditions, it's like, I just need them to recognize they have so many choices. And there's a huge mental health component as well. And I want to make sure that especially children are growing up in a world where they can have something that's as close, if not the same, as someone else, and not have to feel like their food is so different or gross or, whatever. In fact, that's part of the reason we started our bakery. One of our kids was being picked on because of his food, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to shove it in their faces. I'm going to make you something that's so awesome that they're going to want it too. For me, believe it or not, that's the joy. It's the joy of saying, ha, I proved you wrong. We had cake. It was awesome. And that's what you get for even doubting us. It's funny because many, many years ago, in fact, we still tell this story in our house. I drive a very small car, and Carlton drives, at the time he had a minivan, and the seats, they come out, and you can move them around. And so he was down like about an hour away, and I said, oh, the kids and I will come down there, and they can hang out with you, and then I'll drive home. He says, well, the seat to my car is in the garage, so there's no way for them to drive home with me. You'll have to, not do it or whatever. And I said, oh, don't worry. I'll get your seat into the back seat of my car. And he's like, you'll never be able to do that. I got his seat, 4 children, and their luggage in my tiny car, and we drove up, and we were like, ha, we told you, that's what you get for not believing me. And that's the thing, like, believe it or not, I get so much pure joy from proving people wrong.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's proving people wrong that you can
Man.
have your cake and eat it too. That's it. That's all it's
Yes.
about. Yeah.
Yes. That's really good. So, my son will be 3 in July, and he's never had a birthday cake
Oh,
because
wow.
Yes, yes, because we are always concerned that he would want to touch, and you don't know the kind of reaction he would get from, just touching the cake. But this year, I am determined that he's going to have his first birthday cake. So that brings me to my next question. How are you able to develop those fantastic recipes? How? Where do the inspiration come from?
Um, Going back to just the proving everyone wrong bit, in a weird way, I just want our community to have everything that everyone else has. I want us to have gluten-free cake. I want us to have top 8 allergy-free, sesame-free, corn-free cake. I want everyone to be able to come and eat. There's a singer called Cab Calloway, and he wrote a song many, many years ago called Everybody Eats When They Come to My House. And that's really like, that sums up what we do. When people come over, I don't care what your limitations are, you're going to have something. Even where cake is concerned, when people tell us, well, I only have these 5 safe ingredients, I look at those 5 things and I can say, well, it won't be a traditional sponge cake, but we can at least make it look like a cake and you're going to get some killer pictures out of it, right? Whatever it takes to get people to a place where they can just feel included. I think that's the real goal. It's like someone who maybe misses chicken fajitas. Okay, you're never going to eat chicken again, and that's okay. But we can get you a tortilla press, and we'll make tortillas at home, and you can still have bell peppers, and you can still have onions. And hey, there's these 3 other things that when you cook them just right, they sort of remind you of chicken, which is why we're going to call it fajita memories, not actual fajitas. And it's showing people that if you can shift your mindset, you can have anything, like literally anything. And I guess that's really the passion. And then, of course, I'm kind of like a foodie at heart. I never was until I started doing the whole food allergy thing because it made me realize, like, I'll never eat at a Michelin starred restaurant, and I want to. Therefore, I must create the experience myself. When I look at our kids, it's like, especially kid 2, I'm like, you've never had chicken cordon bleu. I'm going to make that for you. Or you've never had, insert pretty much anything. I'm going to make sure you have that experience. Even if you only have it once and you don't even like it, who cares? Because you can say you've had it, and that's my thing. Like, I want to make sure that he misses out on nothing. And in that process, we've ended up creating a platform for literally millions of people around the world that if they need something, it's there, it exists. And so people can show up. And, what's really cool is that advanced search on Raise. I don't know if you ever got around to it, but we filter over 50 different diet types and allergens because I didn't want anybody to be left out. Because it's like, people approach us, yeah, okay, you have top 8. I'm not sure what you guys have there. Do you guys do top 8, 9, 10, 12, or 14 in your country? What do you have?
Do we have what?
Do you have like top 8 allergens? What do you guys have in your country? Top 8, 9, 10, 12, or 14?
Or 8.
You have 8?
However,
Okay.
not much attention is paid to, allergies because
Got it.
they even assume that Nigerians don't have allergies, it's
Yeah.
becoming more and more rampant now, and that's why I am creating the awareness.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So, like, when people come to us, the top 8, there's so many people that are outside of top 8, which is why when we started Raise, one of my biggest things was we have to cater to everyone else. Like, you know, gluten-free people, they have a gajillion products and websites to go to, right? Certain groups, they just have like so many resources, it's crazy. And so we looked at it and said, well, what happens if you're a nut-free vegan? There's nothing for you to eat because everybody's like, oh, you're a vegan, let's throw cashews and almonds and pistachios into this recipe. It's like every special diet type, they just like
Yeah.
throw on all the allergens. They're like, oh, you're paleo? Great. Here, you can have this cake with 16 eggs and almond milk. And I'm like, aren't there any other options? And so that's where a lot of the, especially like the special diet inspiration, that's where a lot of it comes from. It's making sure that if you have these needs, those needs will be met. And I guess that's really the passion. In terms of inspiration, I just look around and I look at food that looks good and I'm like, okay, we need that too, and that's really what it's about. It's making sure that we have these things. And like I said, I'm sure you've heard me say it. I want a Michelin star. I know that they don't give people like me Michelin stars, but I want one. So that's my next big thing, getting our community a Michelin star.
I'm sure that you are well on your way. You are well on your way, really, because okay, I went through free and friendly foods page. Well, even though you haven't, been updating the page
Yeah.
recently, but I went through the recipes you had there, the pictures you had there. They can be served on any restaurant table around the world,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so cool is like, so we have the bakery, Free and Friendly Foods, and we've had thousands of people without food allergies say, if you hadn't told me this was free from, I would have never guessed. I mean, we've had restaurant owners, cafe owners, all sorts of people eat it and just go, this is amazing. Like, it doesn't even cross their mind, like, this was gluten free or this was dairy free or egg free or any of the other frees, and that's the goal, right? The goal is to unify people and to show them, because every culture is basically food driven. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, someone's
Yeah.
born, let's celebrate. Someone died, let's eat. It's everything. Food is very present. And so, of course, when you can't have it, it's like, it's heartbreaking, because suddenly you're left out, you're the odd man out, when people are like, let's go get XYZ to eat. So wouldn't it be great if more places could accommodate? I don't expect restaurants, especially necessarily, to accommodate everyone because for true safety to happen, you really do need dedicated equipment and a clean working space and all these different things. And I personally would never expect a restaurant to shell out like $10 million to serve me. But I do expect some sympathy and some compassion and perhaps some grace and understanding, and I look forward to the day where our community has safe facilities all over the world where food can be produced without, being made on shared equipment. And I definitely look forward to a time where, one of our dreams years ago, and this was because I thought about our kid with the most food allergies. I thought, what if he wants to go to college? I want to make sure he can just go to the store and buy the food I made him. And so I wanted to have a freezer line of foods where you could just go to the freezer, grab it, and have allergy friendly foods. And that's actually already happening. There's different groups that, there's a really great company. It's primarily paleo, but because of what they do, they're already gluten-free and dairy-free and free from a few other things as well. It's getting more of those companies established and getting some safe facilities set up so that, when your friends say, let's go out for a quick bite to eat, you grab your bite to eat and you can go with them. And it's no big deal. And that's really what I want. I want it to just be like, it's no big deal. It doesn't have to ruin your life. Because for so many people, they feel like it's the end of the world because I can't have this or this or this. And that's how ingrained food is in our culture, that everybody feels left out. And I just want to say, no, you don't have to be left out. Like, I know what it's like to be left out. You don't have a reason to be left out. Like, you can have so many things. So let's just make sure people are included.
And let me just use this opportunity to say thank you so much to you for making Raise so affordable. Guys, you can get on the membership with as low as $20.
Yeah.
That's about 8,000 naira in Nigeria.
That sounds like a lot.
$20 a month. Yeah, it's well, relatively, but
That sounds
compared
like a lot.
to other platforms that offer half as much as you do, it's worth it. So thank you so much, guys. Go to the Allergy Chef, then find
Yeah.
Raise, right? Can you tell them
Yeah.
how to get to
So
Raise?
if you visit theallergychef.com, you'll find everything. You'll find links to our bakery, cookbooks, and to the Raise membership. Honestly, I think Raise is even better than our cookbooks. Like, I know I shouldn't be saying that out loud. Like, the cookbooks are cool, but Raise, in my opinion, takes it to a whole new level. It's everything that like a book can't deliver. Like, if I had to turn Raise into a cookbook, the book would be the size of a house, right? Because there's just so much content. Whereas, a book can only be so big. So like that filtering option on Raise and some of the videos there are just like, it's just everything. If you can take yourself back to day one of your diagnosis and that feeling of loss, that's what Raise is. Raise takes you from day one and says, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. here's your shopping list, watch these videos, here are the recipes, watch some more videos. We have like live sessions every weekend where you can tune in and, get up to date on different topics and ask questions. And it's just a way to say like, hey, it's going to be okay, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't necessarily hear or feel. They feel really lost when they're diagnosed.
Yeah, thanks. So, one thing I've learned in the past few minutes of talking with you is that you have this mindset of everything is possible. Now, when these diagnoses come, we might feel defeated, we might feel lost. I'm not sure you have as much information online during your time as there is now. So I just want to encourage every mom whose child has just been diagnosed or who is facing allergies, anybody. I just want to encourage you to have this mindset that it is possible to live a full life. It is possible to eat good food. When you
Yes.
have that mindset, you're now able to find solutions. You can't make any progress from a defeated position. You have to get your mind to where you believe that everything is possible. That's the first step to living a full life. Like, gosh, I am so inspired by your story. So let me just take you back a little bit, because some people here do not even know how severe or how bad your, sorry to use that word, your situation was a few years ago. It got to the point where you were given 30 days to live. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so my condition's pretty intense. The official diagnosis at this point is basically just allergic to everything. Um, the working theory is I was born with some and it got worse over time. There's other conditions that are on top of it. There's OAS, there's probably an autoimmune disorder and environmental issues, and just a lot of things that essentially I am the perfect storm. And so it created just a really bad situation. Um, what's interesting is I got to the point where I couldn't drink water without being in pain. And they weren't like, nobody knew if it was like all water or just some water. And so we started trying water from literally all over the globe. And it was every water, didn't matter where we got it from. It was just extreme pain until we found one company in Maine. They have the only exemption in our country to not treat their water. And so that's when we learned it was the way that companies are processing water. So, like, one of my allergies is corn, for example. I am so severely allergic to corn that the way the chemical industry uses corn and the agricultural industry, the way they use corn derivatives, it's in everything, cleaning agents, plastics, etc. It's literally everywhere. And so for someone like me, everything became extremely painful because I was literally being exposed to allergens everywhere, all the time. And so that was a huge part of it, because I think at the worst, I was drinking maybe 2 ounces of water a day, and that was all I could tolerate. Um, and then after a while, when we got the safe water, it got up to about 10 ounces a day, and they were like, that was considered a big deal at the time. Right now, I'm probably between 20 to 30 ounces of water a day. That's about as much as I can handle. And so I mean, the human body, right? It's built on water. And so when you take away one of the foundational building blocks, and when you take away pretty much most nutrition, it creates this really difficult situation to live through. For the person asking, it's called Summit Spring. They have two names, actually. So one of their names is Summit Spring, and then the other one is Raw Water. You can find it on Amazon. They ship in the United States. I'm not sure about other countries. But that's the brand that I personally use, and it's pretty much the only brand. And when we travel, I actually use that to wash my hands with as well. So it's pretty expensive to wash my hands. Um, but that's that's the gist of the story. Basically, the condition just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Plus, there was a lot of wasting as well. I used to be about 450 pounds before my diagnosis. And then when all of the trigger foods were removed, the weight fell off. But the problem is it kept falling off, and they couldn't really stabilize anything. So it just was like a spiraling situation. But it is what it is. It's definitely given me a unique perspective, because I essentially mimic every major and minor and rare disease. I've mimicked cancer, Crohn's, every GI issue out there, Job's disease, like every really weird, rare disease. I overlap with a lot of their symptoms. So essentially, allergic to everything, because of my symptoms. When someone says to me, "Oh, I have this particular disease," I'm like, "Oh, I know that feeling," and they look at me for a moment like, "Do you really?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually." I have one of those symptoms. In fact, I have 5 symptoms that overlap with you. And they're like, really? And, we've had parents walk up to us and start crying. Like, nobody's ever understood my child before until you. It's like, oh no, I understand the pain your child feels every day. Like, I'm there, and people, I guess they find comfort in that someone genuinely understands what it's like to walk, not just a minute in their shoe, but 24/7 in their shoes. So, if anybody gets it, I get it for sure.
Wow. Then you have children and you realize that your kids also have allergies. Can you tell us about that too?
Yeah, so kid 2 was born allergic to dairy. So we knew this, like, it wasn't a big deal. It was, but it wasn't, in that, we already knew. But one of my predominant symptoms is unexplainable extreme weight gain. So obviously, being 450 pounds and eating less than 1,000 calories a day is not normal. So I always knew that if people gain weight unexplainably, that's a problem. Not necessarily at the time that I was thinking food allergy, but I just knew it was a problem. And we worked with this pediatrician who was amazing. I wish she didn't retire. She was so cool. She helped me like investigate. She was like, let's try this, and let's try this, and let's try this, and let's try this. And I love the woman to death, and I wish she would have started with food because he already had a food allergy. And looking back, like maybe that should have been on the forefront of her mind, but it wasn't. We tested everything else first, and then at the end of it all, she said, let's just do another food allergy test on him just to see. Turns out he was allergic to a lot more things, and it was like, whoa, and so it was a bit of a process with him because I was just watching him gain weight, and I felt bad for him because I grew up like a really fat kid and I hated it. It was awful. And I did not, as stupid as this sounds, I don't know, like, okay, in America, we have this thing called husky clothing, and it's for like fat kids, basically. For kids who don't fit into like the normal sizes, they call you husky. And both Carlton and I had to wear husky clothes as kids, and we hated it. And I'm like, I'm not going to have my child wear husky clothing. Like, as shallow as that sounds, like, I didn't want him to have the life that I grew up with, being picked on, just being uncomfortable all the time. And I knew what I fed him, and I knew how active he was, and I knew there was no explainable reason for him to be as overweight as he was. And that's really the key, right? Is it explainable? I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people are like shoving junk food down their kids' throats, and their kids are gaining weight, and they're not doing anything. They're staying on like these apps all day. And I recognize that society has shifted, and some kids really just eat all day and play video games. Like, I get that, but that wasn't the case. And to me, if you have someone who, no matter what the age, if you're dealing with any form of a symptom, you need to get to the root cause. And so that was the case with kid 2. With kid 3, he was a whole different story. He was a very rambunctious, energetic child, for lack of a better word. And but he was a real troublemaker, like full-on troublemaker. And so he was like assaulting people at age 5. Like, someone actually wanted to get a restraining order against a 5-year-old. And I'm like, that's my kid. And it was awful. And so it was at a time when we were introducing a lot of vegetables and just different new foods. And so dessert was always on the menu. And so one night he did something so awful that Carlton said, "That's it. You don't get dessert for a month." And all the kids went, "Oh!" I mean, you would have thought that it was a death sentence, like losing his dessert, right? Well, I mean, he got no sugary treats, no nothing. And within 2 weeks, we had a different child. He was polite, he was kind, he was quiet, he was completely the
Wow.
opposite. And we were like, wait a second, what just happened here? And we were aware that food can influence body, etc. I knew, for example, that sugar was an issue. Like if you give me sugar, like cane sugar, more than just a little bit, I'll just start throwing up everywhere. And so I know that cane sugar can be an issue for people. And so when the 2 week when his month of punishment was up, the first night he got dessert, he literally was like, you say your kids are bouncing off the walls. He was actually jumping on the couch and throwing himself against the wall. Like he was literally like having an issue. And we were like, oh my goodness, this is his problem. And from that day forward, we just tackled that. We looked at everything from cane sugar, gluten, dairy, everything. We recognized finally that he couldn't do food colorings, chemicals, pesticides, additives, cane sugar. His limit is 20 grams, at least it was at the time, 20 grams of added sugars, which is actually kind of a lot for a kid. But I mean, when you look at children's snacks, for example, I mean, it's like 15 or 20 grams for one snack bar. And people are giving their kids like 5 snack bars a day kind of a thing. So it's a real balancing act. Like, how do you feed a growing child without added cane sugars? Well, you make a lot of food at home, a lot of food at home. And so, I mean, those are our 2 boys with the most problems. And, our youngest recently, we had to deal with some food issues with her. We actually thought we were dealing with like an eating disorder, but it just turns out we just needed to completely change her diet, and then she was fine. And I think it really goes to show, I recognize that our family, we're not a standard family. Not everyone's going to fall into the same categories that we fall into. And I'm not saying that our journey is your journey and your journey isn't mine, but it just really goes to show food is so incredibly powerful. You are what you eat. What you eat fuels your body. And if you're not eating right for you, there will be problems, whether they be minor problems or major problems, right? Like, we're not sure, but food affects people. And I think we've trained ourselves as a society to say, oh, you have a headache every single day, take this pill. Oh, your stomach doesn't feel good every single day, drink this liquid. Oh, your arms are hurting every single day, take this arthritis pill. Instead of saying, well, what do you eat every day? Like, what's the common denominator? Or are you vitamin and nutritionally deficient, right? We live in a time where food does not supply the same nutrition that it did 100 years ago. And people are eating a lot of empty calories. You walk into your average grocery store, especially like when you look at packages that are designed for children, like to sell to like, the fun colors and the cartoon characters and all that stuff. And then you look at the nutritional info and it's void of real nutrition unless it's like fortified this and added this and enriched that. And it's like, hold on, where's the real food? And so I know for me, it's like a quiet passion of mine that I don't talk about a lot, but I'm really passionate about real nutritious food, including food from just other stuff. But it just is so important to me. So, so, so important that nutrition comes back and real food comes back, and that it tastes really good and that it's safe for a lot of people. And I guess that's the long answer to your question.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Thank you. So insightful. So for you, at what point did you connect the symptoms you were having with food? Or was that what the doctor told you, or you had to figure that out for yourself? Because from what you just said, for the 3 of your kids, you had to figure those things out by yourself and then have the discussion with the doctors. For yourself, was it the same thing?
No, for us, we have a really great friend who's a chiropractor, and he's actually like a neurologist type dude. He's amazing. He just ended up becoming a really good friend of ours. And I got to the point where if you would just barely touch me, I was in excruciating pain. And, we were talking about it one day, and he's like, why don't you try eliminating gluten? Like, and this was like many years ago. This is when gluten-free
Wow.
was kind of like a fad. And he was like, a lot of people, they're having success with it. He's like, just try it. Like, let's just see what happens. And it took that statement from him, and it kind of started me thinking about a lot of things. Like, well, what happens? Because I mean, I already knew about our kids and different things, and I thought, let's just try a fun experiment. I've always been a very scientifically oriented person. And so I love fried rice. Fried rice is like one of my ultimate favorite foods. If I could have anything,
Yay,
like
fried
right
rice.
now, fried rice is where it's at. Oh my goodness. And so I made fried rice because it was gluten free, right? That was the starting point. And I felt a little bit better. And I thought, well, let's see what else. And we just started eliminating one ingredient from the fried rice every day. I just kept recooking it until we got down to rice and bacon, and that was the first time that I felt better. Not like
Wow.
I was cured or healed or anything of that nature, but it was just like I felt better. And that's when we said, well, before we go any further, let's get some tests done, right? Like, let's just see what happens. So we spent thousands of dollars on testing and learned pretty quickly allergic to everything. And nutritionally, I was like, basically, my body was completely broken. I was not absorbing pretty much any nutrition. Vitamin D, for example, a very critical marker for health and wellness, is in at least in the U.S. They measure it from 1 to 100, and mine was 4. And a lot of people thought it was a joke. Like, yeah, I would go to specialists, and they were like, "Do you mean 40?" No, no, 4. And they were just like, "I've never seen anybody with that low of a number." And that was my story, my journey, right? Um, my body was just tapped out, done, and tired. So, yay to fried rice. That was really what started us to figuring it all out. But turns out it was a lot more than just fried rice that had to go. It was pretty much everything.
Wow. Okay. Now, yes to homemade food. Since my son turned 6 months, I knew that the only way he could be safe around food is if I make them myself. So, from snacks to food to I've just not been able to make the birthday cake, but this year we do it. So, but it's not everything that you can make. There are times you just want to go into a store and purchase something that your child can have. How easy or difficult has that been for you?
Um, I don't know. Like, I guess I don't think about it because to me, it's like it just is what it is, you know? Because I guess I think of it as consequences, you know? It's like don't touch the hot stove because you'll get burned. So it's like you don't get mad at the stove for existing, you just don't touch it when it's hot. And I guess to me, it's kind of like that because when I see a label, if they can't eat it, they can't eat it. And to me, it just makes me more determined to say, well, I'm going to make it because they're going to eat it. And that's where I come from. I will say, for myself personally, I feel that more than I do for my own kids because I feel like there are things that they really can purchase. They don't necessarily like it, but they do have options. Whereas for myself, it's like, especially when you're first diagnosed, you just want to cry in a grocery store. There's literally nothing to eat. And you're looking at this going, now what do I do? And it's one of the worst feelings because, you know, we grew up in this world where it's like, go to the grocery store, grab your cart, push it around, go shopping, you know, listen to the music, have fun. Like it's this thing. And now you're like, maybe of the store that has, you know, 15,000 SKUs, I can eat 2 if I'm lucky, you know, and that does hurt. It is definitely hard. But I don't know that, you know, I'll put it to you this way. I don't care that I can't buy anything in the store. What I really wish is that money would fall out of the sky and not hit me on the head because it would hurt. And I hope that the money doesn't hit my car either. But I wish the money would fall out of the sky so I could hire someone to come to my house to cook for me. That's what I actually want. Because I recognize that the food in the store is not safe, right? Like that doesn't bother me. But boy, it would be nice to not make it myself, right? But now that my kids are
Yeah,
teenagers, I'm
I
like,
know
hey,
the
go on to
feeling.
Raise and get this recipe and make it for me. And they do. It's awesome. So that's my thing. Like the kids, they can go onto the website and grab a recipe and make something. And And that's, for me, that's as good as it's going to get. Um, so I don't know. It's a weird answer because there isn't a straight one that I can explain. Like it doesn't really bother me per se. It's more like I get it, you know, because we manufacture food as well as do recipe developing. I don't think your average consumer understands cost and just the cost of machinery, right? You know, like we make a homemade cereal for me. For a company to make a cereal that's safe for me, it would cost them $10 million just to start. We're talking facility,
Wow.
safe equipment, employees, sourcing safe materials, trial and error because now they have to develop the recipe. You have to have highly specialized equipment to make little tiny pieces of cereal. And so when you think about that, I mean, okay, yeah, they could serve a lot of people, but now they have to come up with the first 10 million. Then they have to market it. And if everybody doesn't like it, or if it doesn't reach all these people, if it doesn't do these things, you know, what's the shelf life, right? When you look at all these different things, I recognize not only does it take the 10 million, but now you're looking at 2 years from startup to delivery. I don't think most
Mm.
people realize what it really takes to run a food operation. And so sometimes when I hear people complaining, like, how come everything gluten free is dairy free? I'm like, you know what? Shut up. I don't think you get what these people are doing for you. Like, you need to stop. Like, I will happily defend manufacturers as long as they are transparent. I will defend them
Mm.
because people don't realize what they're saying. It's like, stop complaining. 10 years ago, we had nothing. And now we have these companies that are willing to bend over backwards and go near bankrupt to take care of us. You don't get to complain. You get to say thank you and tell your friends to go buy the product. That's what you get to do. Right? Yeah.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, so now, okay, for me, when I discovered a product, not product, a crop that has calcium, protein, those nutrients that my son couldn't get from milk, when I discovered it, it was like I won the lottery, and I just wanted to share it with the whole world. That was how my
Yeah.
business started. It's a cottage business just like yours. In Nigeria, we call it we call them micro small businesses.
Okay.
So I think that for the people who live in our world, that could be the answer to creating safe food that we can buy to eat. So just like in your home, your home is mostly allergen free because you all have to keep yourself safe at first. So you don't even have a choice. So now for other people like you and I who want to start cottage businesses that could cater for these minority, what advice do you have for them?
I think my first piece of advice is make sure you have a base of people to sell it to and understand the laws in your region. So so in the US you have 50 states. The law is different in every single state, and not every state even does cottage food law, which is really interesting. Um, in our state, it was designed to get you started. They don't necessarily want you doing it for like forever, and so there are limits on how much money you can make when you're selling goods. There are also limits, like for example, in California, you can't ship it anywhere, but like
Oh wow.
In North Carolina, you can ship, but you're only allowed to make like 25% of the money that we can make in California. So every state is different. So make sure you research your state first and foremost. The next big piece of advice is ask yourself, is this really an undertaking I want to take? The hoops that we jump through personally to keep our customers safe, they're insane. I think if most people understood what we do to keep you safe, they'd be like, I'm surprised you haven't quit already. It's hard,
Hmm.
right? You're constantly staying on top of companies. So part of what makes our bakery special is we source every raw material from a top 8 free and gluten-free facility. That means we're buying, really big wholesale amounts, and people don't realize just all the calls we're making, companies that we're having to source from, and then of course there's minimum order amounts. Like one item might cost us $600 just to order one ingredient. Now you have to
Wow.
multiply that over how many ingredients do we use, and it's all these different things. So make sure it's something you actually really want to do. and make sure it's something you're really capable of doing. You know, if you have little kids, like 5 and under, I think it's a lot, you know, especially if you have more than one kid. It's like those kids are your priority, right? And so to then take on a
Yeah.
cottage food business after that, it's like,
Mm.
unless it's an easy one, like, I don't know, like a dry mix, I think a dry mix would be pretty doable. But if you're going to do a full-fledged bakery, I think your kids need to be older, you know, maybe even able to help. And then, of course, make sure you take safety as a serious issue. You know, like for us, there's no such thing as top 8 free milk from a top 8 free facility. So we actually make it here. We have a machine that makes dairy free milk. You know, make sure you understand what shared equipment is, where your stuff is really coming from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And go from there, I guess. I mean, it is a business, but also know that when you get into such a niche product line, don't be in it for the money. I think we honestly don't make any money off of this. This is not like, you know, I said I want money to fall out of the sky, right? Like we are not making money. It's more like just something like we break even if we're lucky, but it's a service that we offer to the community because it doesn't exist any other way. And, you know, our hope one day is to commercialize the recipes and let other companies set up a safe facility and just make it. But until then, we're doing it ourselves and just kind of serving our local community and that sort of thing. But, you know, it makes an impact. I've seen some kids who it's their first time eating a cake and the look on their face, it's priceless, completely and truly priceless to see these kids have something amazing. I guess that's just it, you know? But I would much rather, in a weird way, I'd much rather teach people how to make it so they can make it at home. Just because I recognize that I think it'll be a good solid 5 to 10 years before our community is well represented in a grocery store. And even then, I don't think we'll ever really be like super well represented because we are the minority, right? And no two people are the same. That's the hardest thing about our community to nail down. It's like, I can have this, but you can have that. They can have this, they can have that. And so you end up having to have 4 individualized products to feed these 4 separate people. That's not a business model, right? We have to always respect that if a company doesn't make money, they can't pay their employees, they can't do this, they can't do that, right? And so I don't know that we're going to get like this huge thing. I mean, if our people can make food that tastes good to people without food allergies, then you have a business model. But for as long as it's hyper specialized and some of it really does taste weird, I recognize that. You know, for as long as the weird food products, they're not going to get very far. It'd be nice if they did, but they won't, and that's okay. That is totally okay, which is why I think, you know, for people like us, I tell people, get yourself an extra freezer, make the food, have your own homemade fast food at home. That's the real solution for now, because do you really want to put your life in someone else's hands? Can you trust their product? Can you trust this? Can you trust that? You know, it's like there's one company that we used to support, great people, but they have a shared co-packer because they couldn't afford a dedicated facility, and they had to do a recall because of allergen exposure. And it's like, my heart breaks for them because they make a delicious product, but they can't make it safe enough. And so that's the struggle. And so one of the goals that I have for our community, it's something that I quietly work on, and I'm trying to get people on board and spread the seed as much as I can within our community, is let's get our own facilities. Right now, there are 2 in the United States that are top 8 free, and they're both full. They run at full capacity. You can't get in. Wouldn't it be great if we had 20 facilities that were top 8 free? And I mean, here's the thing. When you go through your grocery store, there are so many products that are top 8 allergy free. You just don't know it yet. The key is they're made in, you know, contaminated facilities, etc. And companies don't want to jump through the hoops. And I don't blame them. It's a lot to jump through these hoops. Wouldn't it be great if they could just produce that product in that particular facility? It'd be so much easier. And that's the thing. You would be able to serve millions upon millions of people internationally if we just gave them the facility to work in.
Thank you so much. Our time is almost up, and I just want to say a big thank you to you for accepting to come on live with us, for sharing so much information with us. My comment section is buzzing. MJ says, it is comforting to see someone do this for others. Thank you for being so kind.
Yeah. I feel like our
Someone,
community just needs a champion, you know? And I think, you know, the funny thing is like I said, I don't wear the mask as a statement, but it's definitely something people don't forget. And if I can be a champion for our community and blaze a trail that others can come behind and set up bigger and even better things, I'm all for it, because food allergies aren't going away. You know, it's not like some illnesses. It's not like type 2 diabetes where you can manage it pretty easily and even reverse it in some cases. It's not heart disease where, you know, exercise and eat right and you're going to be fine. It's not like that. You're born with this. This is your life unless you're, you know, one of the lucky few who outgrow it. I know there's some forms of OIT and, you know, SLIT and just different things that are trying to attack it. But even then, that's not a guaranteed pathway to treatment, and it's not guaranteed for everyone. And then, of course, you have your different branches of allergenic disease. You've got MCAS and OAS and all these different things that won't even respond to OIT. And so you have these people that are falling through the cracks, and I just want to seal the cracks up and grab everybody and just say, it's all right. We're going to be okay, you know?
thank you. Everyone, remember, she says everything is possible. Your
Actually,
mindset
you know what?
matters a
I
lot.
gotta, I'm not going to lie. There's like one thing you can't do, and that's egg-free souffle. That's the one thing you can't do.
Sorry, say that again.
I was just saying there's one thing you really can't do, and that's egg-free souffle. Like, it's not going to happen. I just think it's really important. Like,
So we manage
everything,
our
yeah,
expectations, eh?
like everything is possible. Please manage your expectations,
But
and
no
you are
egg
not
souffle.
getting egg-free souffle. I've been thinking about it for a while now, and I've made some experiments, and I just need you guys to know up front, it's not happening. Like, give up on that dream today. But all other
Okay,
dreams, let's do it.
yeah, but let's still keep our fingers crossed on that one. A few days from today, few months, you might come up with some miracle, so we don't know.
Hey,
Olab,
right?
let
You
me
never
read
know.
one comment for you.
Okay.
Olabanke says, thank you for looking beyond yourself and using your condition to create a unique impact in your community. You are really a champion.
Thank you.
That's what she says. Thank
Thank you.
you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, please go to theallergychef.com and see all the resources that are available there, and please take advantage of them. There's a membership for as low as $20. Sorry, that was 8,000 naira, not 80, 8,000 naira or less. Please just do this as a way to support her as she goes to, realizes her dream of building this facility for her community
Yeah.
someday. So thank you so
One of
much
these days.
again. Thank you so much. Thank
It was my
you.
pleasure. It
Thank you.
was so
My
awesome to
regards to
talk with you.
Carlton.
Absolutely.
Same
Thank you for
here.
having me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. We'll talk again soon.
We will, for sure. And happy Food Allergy
Bye.
Awareness Week. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.